Hello and welcome to the Comic Cave. I'm Ramsey, aka Captain Away, and today we are finally on our final World of Flashpoint collection, World of Flashpoint featuring The Flash. While you might expect the collection named for the main character of the main story to be the most relevant, I can't really say that's the case. Like every other volume in this collection that I've been covering for the last week, these are just a random grab bag of stories meant more to provide world building than anything else, and I would definitely not say it's any more required reading for fans of Flashpoint than any of the other collections I've covered. That said, you can feel free to click here in order to watch my breakdown for Flashpoint and the other 4 collections that tie into that story. For everybody else, buckle up, cause it's time to kick this into high gear and take this away. The first story here is from the viewpoint of Reverse Flash, as he travels back in time to stop Barry Allen from becoming the Flash, only to learn that doing so nearly stops him from existing. So instead, he experiments with hurting the Flash, even erasing his best friend from childhood from ever having existed. That's messed up, man. The story ends right before RF kills Barry's mom, but I gotta say, he may be a murdering psychopath, but at least he didn't just break in and do it. He had the courtesy to come to the door and even ring the doorbell first. How considerate. The next story focuses on Captain Cold. Excuse me, Citizen Cold. It opens on him fighting and killing Mr. Freeze. Though come on, Freeze is like 10 times the villain Cold is. He also proceeds to kill Flashpoint Wally West after Wally finds out his true identity, which he's working hard to keep a secret from the world. That probably pissed off a lot of Wally is the true Flash fans, but hey, get used to that feeling. This is like year 2 of 6 of the DC pissing off Wally fans span. Cold is no hero, but has embraced the identity because he realizes it can make him money and endorsements faster than being a bank robber ever did. It also allows him to hit on star reporter Iris West in lieu of her preference for a certain Scarlet Speedster. But it also has earned him many of the same villains as the Flash, with him having faced off against familiar rogues Weather Wizard, Tar Pit, Fallout, Mirror Master, and Trickster. They've all been locked away, but manage a breakout so they can all come after Cold once again, and a nice convenient page where I can show them all attacking him at once, and giving explanations of their motivations. Man, doing my work for me, comic. I like it. Cold manages to kill them all, largely thanks to Trickster, who turns out to be a turncoat. The fight nearly kills him though, and when he stumbles back to his apartment where he'd asked Iris to meet him, he finds she's learned about him having killed her nephew, and that she's joined forces with the Pied Piper. The two men start to fight, but it's cut short by Iris freezing Cold with his own gun. As with the Batman story, I'm not sure when this one is supposed to take place. The main comic mentions a fight between Piper and Cold, with implications that Cold is trying to silence Piper as a witness to a murder. None of that happens here. I guess all the events of this story could happen after the mention in the main story though, assuming the murder they're talking about isn't Wally's. The next story is, inversely, about Heatwave, the pyromaniac, who opens his story by, holy crap, just straight up killing Jason Rush, one half of Firestorm. Man, that's messed up. Cyborg intervenes before Heatwave can kill the other half of Firestorm, and a suit malfunction ends up with him getting captured and sent to join the Legion of Doom. Nah, just kidding. It's just a fun visual reference. This is actually a fancy new age prison called Queens Row Penitentiary. And Heatwave finds himself facing death row, which means it's time for a prison break, y'all. Okay, let me explain why that's funny to me. 3 years after this comic, Heatwave would be played in the live-action Flash TV series by actor Dominic Purcell, who before that was probably best known for playing alongside Flash's Captain Cold actor Wentworth Miller in the TV show Prison Break, which is the plot we're basically getting here, plus some superhero antics. Those antics see Heatwave teaming up with Cluemaster, not because of anything Cluemaster can do, but because he makes a good meat puppet for sneaking in Plastic Man. Ugh, gruesome. Ugh. Heatwave proceeds to start a riot that he uses to unleash the meta-powered villains who were normally held in check by power-dampening necklaces, and get the rest of them their weapons back. Once he takes over, his plan is to get revenge on Cyborg by crashing the prison ship into Detroit, Cyborg's home city. Plastic Man shows a little of his hero side when he doesn't want to kill the whole city and tries to stop Heatwave, only to get melted down. We then get what is actually our best example of Cyborg being heroic, as he single-handedly saves the city from the danger and stops all the bad guys from escaping. The comic ends with Heatwave back in prison, getting a new cellmate, but it's not quite who they think it is. Yeah, it's Plastic Man again. Ugh, gruesome. There's then a short story about Grodd, the dangerous gorilla opponent of the Flash. Without the Flash to stop him, Grodd just gets increasingly bored of his inability to ever face a worthy opponent, leading him to pursue ever more dangerous and dangerous obstacles, including facing off and killing the Ultra Humanite, and his eventual decision to join the fight against Wonder Woman and Aquaman as we see in the main series is just an extension of that boredom. The final story of this series is about Kid Flash, but it actually starts on the character Hot Pursuit, who was only just recently introduced to the Flash in his comics leading up to the Flashpoint event. Hot Pursuit is being pursued by police, but manages to get away by riding her bike up the side of a building Ghost Rider style. But she's only barely gotten away when a weird message about chronal evac flashes across her screen and she vanishes. Then we cut to Bart Allen, Kid from the future, who previously went by Impulse but now goes by Kid Flash. He seems to be having a nightmare about his grandpa Barry Allen being super mean to him, and when he manages to wake himself up from the dream and gets out of his Matrix pod, he finds himself being attacked by Brainiac bots and that he can't access the Speed Force in order to run fast. Luckily, Hot Pursuit is also there and she helps him escape, but they soon realize they're in the far-flung future of the Flashpoint timeline, which I guess means Abin Sur does manage to save the world at the end of his story. Good for him. I guess it also means that, like Booster Gold, Kid Flash, being a person out of time, made it possible for him to switch realities, unlike everybody else. Hot Pursuit's bike is normally powered by a Speed Force fueled core, and for those who don't know, the Speed Force is that magical power that allows the Flash family to run fast. Yeah, it's a thing. So Kid Flash and Pursuit go grab the core from Brainiac, but Hot Pursuit is killed in the process, and as a last act of defiance, she smashes the core to supercharge Bart to give him back his speed. So Bart runs back through time to all the speedsters that ever lived, meeting first with the chronologically earliest, Max Crandall, aka Windrunner, also known as Max Mercury. But Bart has unwittingly become the Black Flash, a force of death for speedsters, and when Mercury touches him, all the speed force is sucked out of him, leaving him just a bundle of bones. The same event happens when he meets Jay Garrick. Eventually, Bart realizes the Speed Force is leading him around to gather up all the potential Speed Force in the universe to send it all into Barry as he runs to travel back in time and prevent the Flashpoint. I guess to help further explain how he was able to time travel without the Cosmic Treadmill. Cosmic Treadmill. It's still so stupid. Kid Flash turns from Black Flash into a White Flash, the living embodiment of the Speed Force, before fading away in another nod back to Barry's death in Crisis on Infinite Earths. And with that, all these collections come to an end, so let's get to the breakdown. While I want to say these collections are absolutely required reading for fans of Flashpoint, that just wouldn't be the truth. Honestly, you're fine sticking with just the main series, which was a good story told well with great art. Those same things can't really be said about most of this collection. They definitely feel by and large like they were created primarily to make a quick buck off of people really excited about this event. And that's evident in a lot of ways, but primarily it's the editing. I noticed a lot of really glaring grammar errors throughout these collections, particularly in the Batman collection and the Deathstroke and Shade the Changing Man stories, but they poke their heads out in other collections as well, like the Green Lantern one, where you have will retrieve it. This isn't that big of a deal on its own, because you can obviously guess that when they said woman, they actually meant Wonder Woman, but when combined with other problems, it becomes just another symptom of the clear evidence that they weren't trying all that hard with these stories. Primarily, there's the contradictions. So many of these stories conflict with the plot of the main comic, or with aspects of each other. At parts, they'll agree with what seems like a surprising amount of collaboration, and at other times, they'll present completely conflicting information. It definitely seems like the writers just turned in first draft scripts made from the information they had at the time and they just ran with them, which doesn't always turn out that poorly. Some of these comics are pretty good. I love the Batman story, and the Superman, Booster Gold, and especially the Tracy 13 stories were all really quite good. Sometimes it turns out pretty poorly, like the Canterbury Cricket story, which just needs to be ignored entirely. And sometimes it just turns out disappointingly. The Wonder Woman story, for example, I think could have been a fantastic chance for a character study, but instead it works so hard to cover an entire lifetime events in 3 issues, so you just get instead a very broad overview that mostly makes Diana look like quite a hot-headed idiot when I don't think that's the character they're trying to present in any of these stories. Even that one. There's also the fact that almost every single story in these collections has a different artist for almost every single issue. Luckily, that doesn't present too great a challenge at any point, but the style changes can sometimes be a little jarring. It was the deadline pressures, I'm sure. So overall, I'm giving these collections a recommendation level of medium. Some of the collections are good enough on their own merit to almost be worth bothering, but overall I don't think there's enough here to appeal to anyone that doesn't want to just fill their Flashpoint collection to full. The collected editions get 2 Reverse Flash emblems, 2 Kid Flash emblems, and 1 Barry Allen Flash emblem. I drew them myself. Aren't you proud of me? And like always, that's moving from bad to good. And when you break it down, it looks like this. The Superman book was the most consistently good, despite that Canterbury Cricket story. The Green Lantern and Batman collections had great opening stories, but pretty underwhelming stories for the rest. The Flash and Wonder Woman comics, despite being the most useful for world building, were all pretty unexciting through and through. There's no bonus content whatsoever, so yeah, I'm judging these based just on the quality of the stories collected in their pages. Thanks everybody for watching. Woo! I'm done with World of Flashpoint. Since these comics are what leads into the New 52, which are the main comics that I'm trying to cover on this channel, I thought I really kinda had to do something a little special for this. I hope you all enjoyed all these videos, and I'm not sure at this moment if I'm going to be back on Friday for a new video or if it's gonna have to wait until next week. Either way, it won't be any longer than that, so make sure to stick around, and I hope to see you then, right here in the Comic Cave.